Hey, how we doing?
Good afternoon. It's Mel here. Welcome to Big Vision TV. And hope you're all doing well, surviving the lockdown. It's been a couple of weeks now since I did Big Vision TV. Now, I know when this whole lockdown thing started, I went into complete overdrive. Like, how can I help? What can I do to help my community? What tools, resources do I have that you would find useful? And I must admit, I went to complete overdrive. Now, last week I thought, I do need to rest a little bit here, but resting, I found that doesn't really suit me either. So I'm back on it again. And this week I wanted to introduce you to a friend of mine. Let me bring him on, and here we go. Let me just show you who he is. His name's James Boardman. Hi, James. Welcome to the show. I'm going to let you introduce yourself. We were just talking before we went live that my shows are never perfect, always a little bit kind of messy and and yeah, I just, in your own words, because I know you've had a little bit of a rebrand recently. Tell us a bit about who you are and what you do.
Cool. Yeah. So I'm James Boardman. So I'm a former Royal Marine, physical training instructor, and I used to serve as a sniper as well. I left the Royal Marines in the military in 2011, where I came home to be with much closer to my children at the time, because I was only really seeing them at the weekend. So I had to make a massive lifestyle change and made that decision. And that was a tough one to make, but it didn't quite go to plan. For 3 years, I found myself in a really, really tough state of mind, shall we say, to adjust to civilian street. I didn't really know who I was. I won't go into it. I'll just briefly go through it here. And then basically what ended up happening is that I started working for myself in fitness. I run my own fitness company, and I built it up to like 250 to 300 members. And then a couple of years ago, I decided that I wanted to create a lifestyle that suited me. And I wanted to live life on my terms. So I then created an online brand where I worked through with dads, and I created the Dad's Coach. And the purpose was that I wanted to help men that were in the same position as I was when I left the Marines, in that state of vulnerability, chaos, in a place where they didn't really know themselves and they weren't really focusing on themselves. And I wanted to be able to do that and not be tied to classes and sessions, and have the freedom to work anywhere around the world, so to speak. So I created the Dad's Coach, and we officially rebranded yesterday to the Man Coach, just simply because more guys were reaching out to want to work with me and get involved, but they felt they couldn't because they weren't a dad. And the whole point is to help as many men mentally and physically and emotionally as possible. So we changed the status to the Man Coach to invite non-dads as well to come and work with me.
Brilliant. That's great. So very different audience to the audience I have, but the reason I wanted to bring you on the show today was because my audience is primarily female, a lot of mums, but again, I'm like you, not all my clients are mums, but I'm finding with this strange situation that the world finds itself in at the moment, there's a lot of kind of dynamic situations that are coming to light in relationships, and it's a bit of an unnatural situation really to be holed in with all your family 24/7 and your partner or whatever. And I wanted to provide some kind of resources or help for my audience who to help them navigate this time, because I can kind of see it, like certainly with my ex-husband. Sometimes I'd want to kind of dish out advice, or do you want to try this, or perhaps I do tapping and visualization, but hearing it from this woman might not resonate. So I thought, because a lot of my audience, I know they watch my stuff and they share it with their husbands, their partners. I thought, wouldn't it be good if I could bring on somebody to bring a male perspective to this lockdown? And obviously, and I think that when someone like you has gone through life changes, a bit like me, and I've talked about this an awful lot with my audience, when you've kind of gone through challenging situations and you've overcome your own personal battles, something like this particular lockdown is kind of like it's water off a duck's back.
Yeah.
And I think it makes us more resilient in order to cope with these kind of situations, which is obviously why you're the perfect mindset coach for dads or men who, you know, want to make changes in their lives. So yes, that's why I wanted to bring you on. So
yeah, great.
You know, yeah, so let's talk about that for a bit, you know, in terms of overcoming adversity and tough times.
Yeah, I definitely. So I like it. I think anything that is unnatural to us is always going to affect the way that we think. I think when it initially happened, when there's a large scale of uncertainty, mixed uncertainty with anxiety, it creates panic. So those two emotions kind of collide together, and it creates a form of panic, I feel. Hence, you're seeing toilet rolls disappearing off the shelves, and all the other stuff that we've seen. People just don't understand kind of what's going on, right? And some of the things that I talk about with guys, I do genuinely believe that women can really get benefit from it. So I talk about 3 C's that we kind of base, that we want to put ourselves in a perfect state, if you like, mentally. So the first one is consistency. So that's consistency of action, consistency of thought process, consistency of state of mind. And we do that in our personal lives, our health, our careers. And then we do that with a sense of control in terms of our time and our energy and our productivity. And then we do that with clarity of knowing the path and direction that we're heading. Now, I think when it comes to resilience, when we're clear on those 3 C's that we talk about, when we are perfectly in alignment with those 3 C's, we're able to become more resilient because we're clear on what we can control and let go of the things that we can't control. So if we look at the whole world as a whole, and we look at that little circle there, this is my life. This is what I'm in control of right here, that tiny circle. Okay, the rest of the world, I can't do anything about the deaths that are happening, about people that are not doing social distancing, about people that are not staying at home. But what I can control is what I'm doing during isolation. What I can control is the positive mindset that we want to approach isolation with and the whole shebang that's going on. What we can control is what we process on social media. So if we're seeing the negativity of the jibber jabbers going on Facebook and everyone thinking they're a scientist, knowing it all, that has a negative effect on our mindset and the way that we're thinking about the situation that we're dealing with. That doesn't make us resilient. That makes us weaker in terms of our thought process because we feel the worst all the time, right? That creates that uncertainty and that panic mode and more anxiety. And I think that when we can control all of our routines, all of our little 1% wins throughout the day, our daily rules, a daily structure, a daily guidelines, and we're living with that certainty, then I feel that we become much more resilient over time. And a really important point is that it just doesn't come overnight, that type of thing. That's something that we have to build up neurologically in our brains to be consistent with over and over again.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And funnily enough, I was actually interviewed this morning for an interview over in New Zealand, and I think I pretty much said exactly the same as what you said just now. It's so true, you know. And I'd also add to that, you know, just cut down your consumption of the news reports, and you don't need to be glued to the BBC News updates. Yeah, check in once a day, but you don't need a continual that loop of, you know, because that just then sucks you back into the fear again. It is just, you know, controlling the things that you can control.
100%. So one of the things that I wrote, I'm just looking for my list here now. So there was a list of things that we were. I'm trying to find with my memory. I don't know if I'm going to find it here, but there was a list of things that you could control to stop that negativity. And I think, like on my local page, oh my God, everybody was blaspheming. Everyone, look at these guys here. Look at these guys. And I was like, right, I'm coming out of that group. I must have taken off nearly 200-300 people off my personal profile because I was literally sick and tired of it. I took off my Sky News app because every 2 seconds it was going, COVID-19, and you're just like, it consumes you, and you're
It
just
really does.
you've got to do your best to live the best life. And I truly honestly believe that there's a huge opportunity to come out the other end of this better, as a better in terms of personal growth, personal development, your personal health, your mindset, your state of mind. If you can get through COVID-19 in our lifetime, you will never, probably, touch wood, I'm going to touch wood here, come up against anything that is quite as crazy as this. And if you can get through this, my belief is you can get through anything, and that will be your reference point. So when something happens in your life, you're like, oh, my husband was being a dickhead. He's really annoying me the way he's been, but actually it's nothing compared to COVID-19.
Yeah.
So I can deal with it. You mentioned it about me and you and our pasts, our resilience that we've built up from those experiences and how we've come out of those experiences. We both could have just, gone into victim mentality and self-pity and just been, oh, woe is me, my life sucks. But you fight for your life, and you fight for your positive mindset and your circle, and you keep working at it. And the more that you put yourself through that or deal with things in a good way, in a good manner, the better you are at dealing with the rest of life. And I don't think it gets any worse than what we're going through now. No, when was the last time anything like this ever happened?
I know, it is completely crazy. Sometimes kind of wake up, think, is this actually really happening? Oh yeah, it is. But I guess one good thing about it is that, and I know it's a hashtag, but we are all in this together. No one is immune from this. Celebrities, athletes, everyone is going through this. So whereas I kind of feel that, and there's no what's better, what's worse. When I went through my stuff, you went through your stuff, that was quite a solitary experience. No one else was going through that, and in some ways it's way more challenging when you're dealing with stuff on your own. So I think we can kind of draw comfort from the fact that everyone is in this together. And actually, because you're kind of into fitness and everything as well, but it reminds me of I heard a while ago that when Olympians train, they often train at high altitude. And they put themselves through difficult environmental conditions, so that when it comes to the actual Olympics, obviously, which aren't taking place this year now, it's a lot easier in their bodies because they've put their body through that high altitude stress, which is exactly what you're saying just now, that if we can work on our resilience and our personal growth during this time, we're going to come out of this so much stronger and so much more able to cope with what life has to throw at us.
100%. There was a saying in the Marines that we used to have, and it was train hard, fight easy. And that analogy is obviously you train for 10 times the outcome of what's going to happen. So when we were deployed to Afghan, you would train harder than any worst case scenario you could ever imagine, or you're just training super hard. And then when it comes to that actual scenario, your mindset has been training at a much higher level. So when it comes to it, it's standard. Everything naturally happens, and I think that is true of life. If we follow the process, and I think where people get it wrong slightly is that they don't learn to love the process. The process creates you as a human being, and you find more about yourself through a process of whether it's health, whether it's personal development, whether it's running your own business, whether it's a relationship. It's really about understanding yourself through the process. You don't learn by sitting still and doing nothing and feeling sorry for yourself. You learn by getting up and doing things and failing, then finding that win, and then winning, and going through the cycle over and over again.
So, James, if we kind of bring this back to some people maybe watching this thinking, oh, that's all very well saying that, but right now kids are driving me nuts. I can't stop raiding the fridge. I'm going completely mad here. What would be a good place to start in terms of, right, okay, enough's enough, we're 3 weeks in, or month in, or depending where you're watching in the world, it could be longer. What's a good place to start with this whole kind of new me kind of mindset shift?
So I bring it back to the 3 C's, and we challenge you to look in the mirror and kind of ask yourself, how can I be consistent? How can I produce elements of control in my life, which is really important in this, like what's going on? And how can I get that clarity about the direction that I'm heading? Now, the thing that I teach my guys is routine and structure, like, really matters. Now, one of the biggest things that we do and I implement with the guys is a morning routine. Okay, now a morning routine gives you time for yourself. Now, if I was working with women, probably the excuse I'd get is that, oh, I'm exhausted from the kids, or I'm tired, and I get that. But for men and women, both sexes, both sets of parents need time to themselves. And usually the only time that we're ever going to get that, to find that element of control and clarity, is in the morning. Now, we call it the golden hour. And that is a case of getting up an hour earlier than you normally would. So let's say you get up at 7. It means getting up at, say, 6, and then looking at having a set routine to help you be in the right state of mind to cope with the day. So to cope right now, it would benefit you because we've got screaming kids, we've got mayhem, everything feels a lot of pressure. And if you can kind of get yourself in the right state of mind to be able to control and have clarity throughout the day, you're going to perform better. Everyone's going to get the best version of you. You're going to be thinking clearer, making clearer decisions. So that morning routine might look like waking up, 10 minutes meditation, maybe some mobility, maybe a home workout for 20 minutes, maybe checking your top 3 things that you want to do for the day, maybe finding some gratitude and things that you're grateful for in the morning. This all lifts up your positivity vibe, or what I call your positive bar. So, like your energy bars, you see, it just raises your energy bar, lights the fire. And kind of when you finish that hour and the kids have woken up, if you kind of visualize your audience is women, but women, when they wake up and they've got that bed hair and they're just like, oh my God, cereal, tea, and you're just there like that. Or you can imagine yourself having been showered, having worked out, having done some meditation, having done some gratitude and feeling quite grateful for the day and the fact that you've got the energy to go to kids, and you're like, kids, how's it going? How are you doing? There's your tea, there's your coffee. Do you know what I mean? And I know what most women, they're like, he obviously is not a mother. But like, I get it. We've got it here. I totally understand. It does work, and it does, 110%. You can get that consistency, control and clarity in that first hour of the day. And that
the reason I'm laughing is because I know some of my members are watching, and you pretty much just summed up the morning routine that I share with my guys, my ladies rather. It's almost identical. And actually I've shared recently that I have different morning routines in the winter months and in the summer months, because I'm much more of a summer person. And right. Even, a couple of weeks ago when the clocks went forward and we gained all that extra light, just it being light when I wake up in the morning, it makes me, just feel better. So I have a very similar morning routine. And actually, funny enough, when I was talking about the funk I found myself in, because we're human beings, and I don't know about you, but I don't feel positive every single day. Mostly I do. No. Mostly I do. But, there was just even up until a couple of days ago, I found myself for a couple of days just feeling in a little bit of a funk, not very motivated. And again, it's happened again a couple of weeks ago. So it's happened a couple of times during the lockdown period. And I recognise that for me, it happens and it lasts. I don't let it last for more than a couple of days, because I see where my mindset's going. I can see myself spiralling a bit. For me, it was about the food this weekend. I was, there was like quite a bit of chocolate around the house. And I don't know, sugar does affect me adversely, even though it's nice and, it feels good at the time. It really does negatively affect me. And then, I don't know, it affects my sleep as well. So I wasn't doing my morning routine, and then I just, and the thing is, it does take a little bit of effort to get out of bed that bit earlier, to meditate, and for me, it's a bit of yoga, a bit of stretching, but as soon as I do it, set my intention for the day, do my gratitude list, it's just like, why do I even allow myself the days when I, can't be bothered to do it.
Yeah, 100%. So ironically, I had one of those days yesterday, and I talked about it on my morning show this morning, the morning JB show that I do. And it was, what was the headline? I think it was mentally, let me just have a look at the name of the title here. It was mentally fatigued, I think. I just want to get this right. Let's have a look here. So, mentally drained. So I was mentally drained. So for me, like, since it's happened, I've gone all out in terms of work. One of us, so my partner lost her job in terms of she works for herself as an animal physiotherapist, so can't go out and treat animals or can't really do any work. So I was like, okay, let's 10x the way that we're going to work here. Let's deliver more content. Let's deliver everything. And I just got to yesterday and I was just like ruined, like mentally, my head was fried. And I was just like, I just can't be bothered. So do you know what? I got to 12 and I just went, I'm having a day off. I'm not doing anything. And I think recognizing those signs in yourself are super important, because if we put it into perspective, I'm 41. God willing, I've got another 50 years, maybe more. One day out of 50 years is not going to change the path, the course that I'm on, the road that I'm heading down. And I think sometimes we have to give ourselves a little bit of a break and say, you know what, I can't be bothered to work out today. Like, I'm not going to make a habit of it, but just I'm tired. I'm not going to get out of anything. And I see loads of people going for a run and they're like, I'm just not feeling it. So just do some mobility, do an extra 10 minutes of meditation, do some more journaling, just do something else that's different, or just go, do you know what? I'm just going to take a day off. And tomorrow I'm going to do what we call bounce back ability. And your bounce back ability is similar to what we talked about with resilience. It's like, I had a bad day, so I'm going to mope and feel sorry for myself all day. No, you're going to have a bad day, or you're going to have an off day. You're going to wake up tomorrow and you're going to go for it. And like this morning, I felt much better for taking that day off. Focused, clear, concise, know exactly what's going on. The 3 C's were in play. And it was just, and today's a better day. But if I cracked on through stubbornness and ego, I would have been drained today.
Yeah, absolutely. And even as a mum, and I kind of almost have backup resources for the days when I know that I'm a bit drained, a bit low on energy. So I do have things like, ready meals in the freezer, and because do you know what, I'm just not going to cook today. I think we do have to be kind of kind to ourselves. And I was listening to this great podcast, and was it Tim Ferriss and Brené Brown a while ago, and Brené Brown was actually talking about, in a couple situation, is kind of checking in with each other, so that you want to kind of be kind of like 100%. We want to operate as human beings as 100%, but obviously it's not possible every single day to operate 100%. But it's like just checking in with each other, and I thought it's a really good tip. That checking with each other. So like, how are you feeling today? You'd be like, I'm 50%. And so if you're both between you 100%, you know that you're gonna work on things together. But if you're both really low, it's kind of like, right, okay, today we're getting a takeaway. We are gonna cut out all the crap. We're not gonna speak to anyone who we don't like, or we're not gonna let's skip the not football practice, we'll skip some of the kids' activities today. But I think it's as a couple, I think that's a really good way to just check in with each other. How are you feeling? And just give each other the energy and support when you need it.
I think it's about being a team. I think within a partnership, you have to be something I failed at in my previous marriage was, I was very selfish in that respect. And, I wasn't a great husband. I was a very different person all those years ago. And as part of my own personal development, trying to be a better man for your partner is something I think that's, I value as something of, that I recognize I needed to improve. And I think in terms of becoming a better man, you have to rely on your partner to be able to tell you things that, that's not right. I just want you to think a little bit more about this. You know what I mean? And over the years, I've been lucky enough to improve the way that I conduct myself in a relationship, so to speak, so that I'm a lot more less selfish and a lot more giving and a lot more understanding. So I think, you're absolutely right. You've got to work as a team to bring each other up.
Yeah, I love that. Brilliant. So, Sylvia says here, not every day is great, but there's something great in every day.
Love
absolutely.
That.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So, let's talk about the kids now.
Okay.
In the role of in the role of kind of, where we are in this lockdown situation, navigating, okay, so we've talked about the morning routine and how to set your day. I think getting your day off on the right footing is going to massively impact the rest of your day. So hopefully the morning routine will just kind of sort everything out. But then you add teenagers into the mix,
Yeah.
What are your kind of top dad tips for navigating the lockdown?
So I think something I want to add on top of that morning routine is having family rules through this COVID-19 thing. We're all under the one roof. Now, a lot of the dads are working from home, and I'm sure a lot of mums are working from home as well. I'm just using my audience. So there has to be clear, concise routine, and there has to be clear, concise rules so that the whole family know what your rules are. So we've done the morning routine. We get to 9. So I'm just going to quickly run through this brief so you understand a little bit more in depth. So from 9 to 10:30 is deep work session 1. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you're employed but working from home, you're working from 9 to 10:30 on your big priority tasks. Then from 10:30 to 11 is break. So then we have that as dedicated family time. The family know that you're on a break at 10:30 to 11. That means that you could work or play with the kids guilt-free, knowing full well that you've done your first deep work session. Everyone knows it's that time. So we're going to do football in the garden. We're going to do wrestling. We're going to do whatever it is, painting. And then at 11, you're going back to work. So 11 to 12:30 is deep session work 2. So it's your next priority. So we want to get all of our top work done before midday, because after a morning routine, right, we kind of get to that point at 12:30 and we start lagging. That's when we start getting a little bit of a weary on. So then we have an hour lunch. So in that hour, that's lunch with family. That's, again, dedicated family time. No phones, no laptops, no distractions. That, again, eases that feeling of guilt that I should be playing here with the kids. But, it allows me to do my work with not feeling guilty. So where you talked about with the team, so my partner knows I'm working between 11 and 12:30 and 9 and 10:30. They're my 2 important work slots. So she'll entertain Alba, but then I'm also having the fruits of her entertainment as well. Then we go on from 1:30 to 3 is like your deep work 3. So it's the next set. And then what we usually do is I usually do an hour of what's called a transitional routine. So that's to get myself out of work mode mentally and into personal space to be present at home. And I think that's something a lot of people need to do, men and women. Otherwise, we end up carrying that work armor with us around the house, and we don't want that. And when you're stuck under one roof, it can be super stressful. So that transitional routine might be just whatever it is, some meditations, an audio book, a chapter of a book, writing your journal, planning the next day, brain dumping, all of those things and tasks that help you unwind the brain, okay, and the body will follow. So I think in terms of kids, so I've got a 12-year-old boy who is just energy. He's just a Duracell battery. So it's being clear with him of when we can kick about and do our stuff. But what I've done in terms of my planning is that I see him Monday and Thursday. So I make sure that I finish at 11:30. So that's when we will go for our daily outing. We're allowed out once a day. I'll go and pick him up. We do walking, football, baseball or something just whilst we're walking, just to entertain him. And then we go in the garden and we do something there. And I allow myself those afternoons off to completely make it my mission to burn him out for bed. It's quite the opposite way around, though, to be honest. So I try and burn him out. My 14-year-old daughter is pretty much in bed all the time on her phone to her friends, as a 14-year-old girl is. So I don't really need to entertain her. And then my 3-year-old daughter is just creates havoc and hell, who doesn't understand the rules of the house, who's, Daddy, I've been on many a webinar like this with clients who are highly paid clients coming up and go, Daddy, I need a poo. And oh my God, this guy I'm talking to is a CEO of $1 million company. And you're just like, oh my goodness me. So I think you've got to have the mindset and approach of having an adapt and overcome mentality, right? It's good having rules and structure, and if you can keep to them, then great. But have that mindset that adapt and overcome. Some days you might just look at your kid and go, how can I refuse that face? I'm just going to go and play some dolls or toys or train sets or whatever it's going to be. And I think just allowing yourself that balance is really important. So we need to juggle that. So there's 4 pillars in my world. Okay, there's health, personal development. Oh, you got the same. Relationships, and career. So I try and get the
Mine
guys
are
to
slightly different. Yeah, mine are health, money mindset, which does include work as well, environment, and relationships. So
nice.
Yeah.
I'm sure we probably separated at birth, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it's funny because I talk about the 4 pillars of your big vision. So yeah. Sorry, carry on. Back to you. My audience know my pillars.
It's really interesting as well. So it's the same concept. It's the balance between all of them. And I chose those 4 pillars because I think they kind of touch all 4 corners of life. Really, you don't miss much out with those pillars. And whenever somebody comes to work with me the first time, one of the first things that I try and do is establish where their priorities lie. And you always find that it's work, it's career, and that is distracting you from relationships, health, personal development, and you tend to be like, work-life balance is shocking. Stress, frustration comes from that. And if you look at most divorces and most separations in terms of men and women in their sort of 40s, a lot of that comes from guys who are always working and never around and never really nurturing that relationship. Many men that I've worked with in the last 2.5 years that have been divorced have all said it's my fault because I've always put work first. Crazily,
Yeah, no, I love it. And it's funny, I need to take some of your family rules on board. We're kind of a bit lacking in this house.
Well, it's hard. It's hard. You kind of went to the window yesterday.
Yeah. Last night, I actually went to bed before my kids. I'm fed up of telling them to go to bed at night. So I actually woke up this morning and I said, so what time did you go to bed last night, you two? One was midnight and the other one was 1 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, that's what they told me. So I thought, do you know what? One night is not going to hurt. Just do what you want. And
I do that anyway. Might be the worst parent in the world for doing that, but I go to bed at 9:15. I go to bed at 9. I'm up at 4:15 every morning. Yeah. So I'm in bed. My boy goes to bed about the same, 11, 12. My daughter stays up to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes. And then I go in to go and see her. I went to go and check on her today. She's still asleep at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, it's sometimes you just gotta
I justify that by saying that actually I think teenagers are wired differently. That I think, I bet you remember as a teenager that you probably wanted to, and I remember reading with a torch under the covers, and we didn't have, God, thank God we didn't have mobile phones in those days. But of course, they've got phones and devices and their friends on House Party and whatever apps they're on. Of course they're going to be awake. Why would they be?
I used to draw pictures in an A4 pad with crayons. That was the best I got. I remember when my mum bought an Amiga 500. I don't know if you would have remembered one of them. And it was like the in computer, and I was able to play sensible soccer. It was like I won the lottery because I suddenly got this computer, and I was like, blimey, you get more power in something like this than a whole desktop computer back then.
No, James, I'm older than you. I remember all sorts of things. Yeah, the kids don't imagine if they were in lockdown 20 years ago.
My God.
Or if you just have, a Nokia Snake to keep you entertained.
Oh yes, Nokia 3310. I remember that.
Yeah. Oh, James, I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to talk to me and to my audience. It's been great, and I'm mindful of your time. I'm going to let you get back to your family. So where can we find out? So the guys who are watching, my audience, if your husbands are watching, where can we find out more about you?
Okay, so my book, which is where I recommend anyone coming into my world, is the first step to start. You can find it on Amazon. It's called It's a State of Mind. That's on Amazon. The podcast is called It's a State of Mind, and that's on iTunes and Podbean. And then the usual social media bits. The Instagram and Facebook is at the Man Coach now. And then LinkedIn is James Boardman, and YouTube is the Man Coach as well.
Brilliant. Yeah, if you want to hop in and pop those in the comments afterwards, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, 100%.
Brilliant. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me today, and enjoy. Well, I was going to say enjoy. Yeah, I hope the rest of the lockdown, is kind to you and your family, and I'll see you on the other side.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
You're welcome. Thank you.